Welcome to Mississippi Boulevard Christian Church, better known as the Boulevard. The Reverend Dr. J. Lawrence Turner is our senior pastor. The Boulevard's Midtown campus is located at 70 North Bellevue Boulevard, and our Southwind campus is at 8220 East Shelby Drive in Memphis, Tennessee. You can call us at 901-729-6222, and you can email us at connect@theboulevard.org. This is a series of conversations through the Boulevard's Music and Arts Ministry. We are holding these discussions with relatives of famous personalities and asking them to share with you their lives in the shadow of a famous person. Our guest today is Miss Veronica Hayes. She is the daughter of who we call Black Moses, Isaac Hayes. Isaac Hayes was the first African American to win an Academy Award in music. And so we are here to talk with her, and she's going to share some wonderful information with us about her life and her life with him. And so we hope that you will relax and just enjoy this. We'd like to say, welcome, Veronica. How are you?
Well, I'm excited to be here. Hello, Stephen.
Very good. Speaking of the name Veronica, and I think your father referred to you as Ronnie. How did all that come about?
Well, my name Veronica actually came from my mother. I was born on a Saturday morning. She was watching the Archies, and her favorite character was Veronica. Evidently, I came really, really fast. They got me to the hospital, and I started coming out while she was on the elevator. And that was the last thing she saw, so she named me Veronica, and then hence Ronnie. All of my family and my friends from when I was small call me Ronnie. So you can kind of tell anyone that calls me Ronnie, they've known me 40, 50 plus years. So that's where Ronnie comes from.
Tell us something about you, and let's go back. Let's go back to the beginning, where you were born, and let's just get some of that information.
Okay, well, I was born in Memphis, Tennessee. That's my home, and raised by my great grandmother and my mom early on. I wasn't really introduced to my dad until my first memory of my father. I think I was probably 6 years old, because by that time my parents had divorced. But I'm a product of Memphis, love Memphis, and grew up in a really, really, really good family.
Oh, that's great. Now, where, in what part of the city were you raised up?
Oh, wow. Started out, I was born and raised, Mansfield was the name, 925 South Mansfield, and that is off of Bellevue, and I guess it's South Memphis, off of Bellevue and Lamar. I attended Bruce Elementary my kindergarten and first grade year, and then my father relocated my mom to Westwood. Westwood was just being developed, and bought her a new home out there, so I attended Westwood Elementary for the second and third grade.
Okay.
And,
I'm very familiar with Bruce Elementary, and
I went from Bruce Elementary to Westwood, and then around that time, my father got custody of my sister and I, my older sister and I, and we went to live with him. And hence my private school education began then. He put us in St. Agnes Academy on Walnut Grove, and I attended St. Agnes until the 8th grade.
Okay.
Yes.
And then where'd you move to from there as far as schooling was concerned?
Oh, wow. Well, I know it's a lot of moving around. We relocated to Atlanta, and I attended the Westminster schools in Atlanta for 2 years, and then eventually graduated from Northside High School, which is a performing arts high school in Atlanta.
I see.
Yes, and then came back to Memphis for college.
I see. Okay. Yeah. Well, that is a lot of moving. When you were coming up, but let's just say when you were at Bruce Elementary, how conscious were you of your father's fame? And
We didn't realize, I didn't realize my father's celebrity until I was on my way to middle school, actually. We traveled with him when he was touring live at Sahara Tahoe in Florida, and I was probably in the second or third grade that summer. And he took all of us on tour with him. We would go to the airport and he would wear an afro wig, and didn't really understand it then, but it was a disguise because he would get stopped all the time. Never understood why he wore that until I was a little bit older, and people would ask him to sign his autograph. It still didn't register. And I think a large part of that is because my father kept us really, really grounded. Even though we lived in the homes and had the cars and things like that, we still had chores to do. We couldn't sleep in on Saturdays. My allowance, even in high school, was $10 a week. He did not, we couldn't ask for anything and just expect it to be given to us. So in the house, he kept us very, very, very grounded. We had housekeepers and cooks, and we still had to clean our room, clean bathrooms, clean windows. So it wasn't until I was about 12 or 13 that I realized something was a little different with my father.
Oh, okay. Now, did you see yourself as a person who wanted to sing in church, or had friends who were music people, or even theater or dance?
Did not have a choice. I had to sing in church. I grew up with your Southern typical Black family, the Easter speeches, the all day in church, the Christmas speeches, and plus I had ministers in my family. And my mother worked for the church. She was the executive assistant to two head bishops of the CME church. I'm a CME. My home church in Memphis is Greenwood CME Church. So she was executive assistant
Oh, really?
to them and Bishop Graves. So church was all around me. It was all around me my entire life. And I was afforded to meet a lot of the ministers and all of the other bishops that weren't senior bishops. Yeah.
Well, I know that Bishop Graves was also, well, you remember where CME Publications and all that was there in Memphis. Now, were there any activities that you participated there, or because I know how prominent Greenwood is as a very historic church?
No, I was kind of young then. I was kind of young. It used to be at the publishing house on South Parkway, and then they moved to Elvis Presley Boulevard. But I was kind of young then. And then when I went to live with my father, I wasn't going to church as much. So it was really my young years that it was, embedded in me as far as church.
With your friends, those friends that you grew up with, I'm sure that many of them are still your lifelong friends. How did they see you as again, someone who was connected to someone who's very famous? And I'm sure we're talking later on in life, but junior high, high school.
It wasn't until I attended St. Agnes Academy. You gotta remember, it was in the 70s, and not many Blacks were attending private schools. It was an all-girl Catholic school. And I can remember I felt so out of my element. I didn't look like them. I didn't talk like them. My hair wasn't like theirs. And I want to say for the first 6 months I attended St. Agnes Academy, I didn't talk. It was a culture shock. It was so different. I was kind of ripped out of what was normal for me on a day-to-day basis. And so it took a minute for me to acclimate myself to St. Agnes Academy. And then, we were being dropped off at school in a limousine, which was nuts to me. It was nuts. So early on, the white kids knew, okay, Isaac Hayes' kids, but we blended right in as far monetarily and as far as where we lived. We lived on Shady Grove in East Memphis around the corner. But It was a culture shock for me.
Okay, and did anyone sort of wrap their arms around you and say, "Hey, we're going to
Oh,
be the best of friends"? And
very welcoming. I'm still very close to a lot of my friends at St. Agnes. I would say probably 20 of us. We get together from time to time. We still keep in touch via social media. Thank goodness for social media now. Everyone can stay in contact, and we have these little mini reunions. But yes, they were very welcoming. And to this day, we still meet up.
as you moved on, and I'm talking about getting more into the relationship with your father, and then watching him have to leave all the time, and what do you think about that? How did you feel about his going here and going there? And I'm sure you travel sometimes with him. What was it like for you? Yeah.
Well, initially, like I said, the first trip that we went on, that I went on, it was my first plane ride, is when he was touring the Live at Sahara Tahoe album. And that was more than like in 72, 73. And it was during the summer. We only traveled with him during the summer. It wasn't until I was 6 or 7 that my first memory of him, I didn't know what it was like to not have a father in my life. My mother's family, my mother's side of the family, it's a lot of women. My grandparents were there, my great aunts was there. So I was reared early on by a lot of strong women, and that's what I knew. I was introduced to my dad. He was around a lot, and then he started traveling. So initially, once I moved in, it didn't faze me that he wasn't there, because the first 6, 7 years of my life, he wasn't around. I don't remember. He said that he used to come visit us, but I was so young, I really don't remember. My first memory is that summer. And then when we moved in, he really got us involved in a lot of activities. I took gymnastics, vocal lessons. As I got on, I was in performing arts. I was a cheerleader. So he really was very big on us being active and not being lazy, as he said. He idle time is devil's workshop, and that's what he believed, especially with kids. So we were all involved in different things. So it wasn't until I got older, when I started performing in different things, that I began to miss his presence.
I know, and now I want to kind of move into your father and his musicality. Uh, for example, I mean, I know in his high school years he was at Manassas. I should also say too that your dad was a Teen Town singer,
Yes,
WDIA Teen Town singer. So was I.
yes.
I don't know. I didn't say that to you, but so was I. And I was in during the time when the Soul Children were there, and it was something special. You could connect with anybody through WDIA, and WDIA gave me my first money to go to college. So
Wow,
I'm
nice.
just forever grateful. And so I'm really really grateful to AC Williams and all
Oh
the
yeah.
other people who were a part of me that happened. His gift for music, it really did grow. If you analyze his music from the beginnings of Stax and his first uh, pieces that he wrote, and then he found his partner, David Porter,
Mhm.
and they really did connect very well. And it's really no different from any team of writers who just have a natural affinity to each other. And I
Mhm.
was just, it's very impressive in how he grew into the musician that he was. I'm wondering if you noticed within him some kind of, um, I don't mean musical growth as much as I mean you get deeper into this thing, you get deeper into the music, and you go from I'm a soul man or hold on, I'm coming. You go from there and you move on up into the music of Shaft and the other albums that he produced, Black Moses, on up to Joy. Did you notice that kind of adjustment or change in him?
Not then. I was a little girl.
Okay.
However, my first introduction to my dad in music is when I was at St. Agnes Academy. I can remember playing the piano at our home. I could hear a song, and within 10, 15 minutes, I could play it by ear with all chords and everything. And my dad made me take piano lessons at St. Agnes Academy. Sister Mary Agnes Ricardo was my piano teacher. And I can remember him coming to my recital, and he went to her and said, I want you to teach me how to read music. And she said, oh no, Mr. Hayes. She said, you have come so far. You won Oscars and Grammys. She said, that's a gift from God. She said, no, I'm not playing with God's gift. And it wasn't until then that I realized that he could not read or write music. And I was like, okay, you have me taking piano lessons and forcing me to learn how to read and write music, but you don't even know how to read and write music. So I was a mouthy kid, and I would challenge him a lot. And so at that point, I stopped taking piano lessons because I said, well, you don't know how to read or write, so I can do the same thing as you. But it wasn't until later on in high school when music changed, R&B changed, and it went into disco. Okay, he was very uncomfortable. Now that's when I saw the transition, because in his heart of hearts, he's an R&B singer. And then it changed again, and then hip hop came aboard, and then rap came aboard. So by that time, I had friends in the industry, and they would actually come over and talk him through some things. And even up until about 2 or 3 months before he passed away, I was dating someone, and he wrote a song, and my dad heard it, and I contacted Snoop Dogg, and Snoop had never met my dad, and we did a conference call, and he said, oh my goodness, Isaac Hayes, are you kidding? I would play pots and pans to be on a song with you. You know, I listened to you growing up.
The beauty of it all is that he wrote the kind of music that really did reach deeper to me than a lot of the music that was going on at the time. I mean, I remember.
Will live on. I mean, it's not something that, you know, one hit wonders, or, you know, he's one of the most sampled artists of all time. So I can remember even seeing maybe 3 or 4 years ago, he's still in the top 10 of the most sampled artists of all time. So that goes to show you, you know, how great the music was and the longevity, and it'll live on forever.
I think I mentioned to you in one of our earlier conversations about when they broke the ground for the Stax building to be rebuilt, and all of that, and he was there. And of course, my name is Hayes, so I'm saying to myself, hey, let me go over here and talk to Blood. And whoa, he walked in there, and I was like, I didn't know what to say, but it was just, again, I ended up talking to Steve Cropper for about an hour. So,
I love him. I love him.
Yeah, he is. He's a great guy. Yeah. You could go to the concerts and you could enjoy your father. And then he was such a humanitarian in so many different ways. Would you like to share just some of the things that you know that he was a part of?
Oh my goodness. I could kick myself to this day because, you know, my father was very big on literacy, and he was an international spokesperson for literacy. Reading is a fundamental, it's a foundation for anything and everything that you want to do. It doesn't matter what you do in life. And he became, he loved Ghana, going back to the motherland, to Africa. And I can remember high school, that's when he began going to Ghana. He wanted me to go 2 different times. I was like, Dad, I don't want to go to Africa. Who wants to go to Africa? And now I could kick myself because I didn't take the opportunity. You know, now as an adult and I'm older, you know, it's just such a huge missed opportunity. But he actually opened up a school there, and the focus was on AIDS and healthcare because they were going through a big crisis at that time. He also would do these celebrity golf tournaments. And when he was in New York, he lived in New York for a while. And he would get a lot of his friends that were in sports, and they would do those tournaments and donate money to different literacy programs and things like that. He was very philanthropic. I want to say I can remember distinctly a couple of years he would make us during the holidays, we would go feed the homeless and try to impress upon us as kids how fortunate we were. He never wanted us to forget where he came from and how fortunate we were, even to the point that my stepmother, she, like I said, she talked to us all the time about we don't live like most Black families. And she pulled us out of Westminster schools in Atlanta and put us in a public school.
As we move toward closing this conversation there, what are some of the things that stand out to you that you know now, I mean, that you can say, this really helped me in life?
My father was big on just the golden rule, treat others as you want to be treated. He was very conscious and he hammered this home to us. Always think about how your actions are going to affect other people. Always. I have run into so many people approach me once they realize I'm Isaac's daughter, and especially when he passed. And they come up to me, I hear the stories, and I have never heard one negative story. And I'm not saying my dad is perfect by any means, he's human. But the consistent message that most people had about him was that he was very open and he always made time for other people. He always said people don't have to like you. They don't. And when people invest time in you, everyone has a responsibility to give back. He always said, you have to whom much is given, much is required. You have to give back. And it's not necessarily monetarily, it's giving of your time or sharing ideas or knowledge, but you have to invest and give back to the universe. He was huge on that.
Well, this has really been a great conversation, and you've enlightened me and our audience, and I know that everyone who either your friends who already know you or people who are just curious enough to want to know something about you and your life and how that fits in with your dad's life. I just want to thank you for taking the time. This has been very enlightening for me, and I'm hoping that this won't be our last time talking about.
We have to have a round two.
We'll do that. Well, listen, thank you again for taking the time. And we want to thank those who have taken the time to watch this video. And we'll just look forward to the next time.
Well, I appreciate your asking me to participate. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and hopefully the audience will as well.